The wind carried dust like whispers of old secrets across the flat plains. Wade Langston tightened his grip on the steering wheel of his truck, the kind of rust-bitten Ford that only men with calloused hands could keep alive. Ahead, the silhouette of a lonely farmhouse rose against the sun, its wooden bones grayed by decades of neglect. The sign nailed to the post by the dirt road read bank property, abandoned. To Wade, that word of abandoned had always sounded like opportunity. He'd lost too much already. His father's ranch to drought, his marriage to distance, his faith in people to broken promises. The land was all he had left to believe in. And this piece, cheap and forgotten, felt like a new beginning. As the truck rolled to a stop, the engine coughed and died. Silence swallowed the air, except for the soft creak of the farmhouse porch in the wind. Wade stepped out, his boots sinking into dry soil, and for a moment he thought he heard something, laughter, faint, drifting from the house. He frowned, adjusted his hat, and started toward the porch. The boards under his feet groaned as if complaining about being disturbed after so long. He peered through the dusty window and froze. Someone was inside. The door opened before he could knock. 3 women stood in the doorway, their eyes steady, unafraid. The oldest, dark-haired, with a calm that carried weight, spoke first. "You're trespassing," she said. Wade hesitated, caught between disbelief and confusion. "The bank sold me this property," he replied. "Said it's been empty for years." The second woman, younger but sharper, laughed without humor. "That's what they always say." The third, standing a step behind the others, looked at him quietly, curious, almost sorry. Wade lowered his voice. "So, this is your land?" The eldest nodded. "Has been for more than 20 years. And we never sold it." He felt something tighten in his chest, not anger, but the slow, cold realization that he'd been played. The bank, the signatures, the promises, all of it built on lies. Before he could speak again, the eldest sister stepped forward. "You should leave before they come looking. The bank doesn't like people asking questions." Wade stared past them into the dim house. Old furniture, a fireplace still warm, the scent of bread in the air. This wasn't abandonment. It was survival. He took off his hat, nodded once, and said quietly, "Then maybe it's time someone started asking anyway." The women exchanged a glance, the kind that carried both fear and hope. And for the first time, the silence of the plains didn't feel empty. It felt alive. The sun had begun to slide toward the horizon, turning the prairie into a sea of gold. Wade Langston stood on the porch, hat in hand, as the eldest sister watched him with sharp, unreadable eyes. Her name, he soon learned, was Margaret Callahan. The other 2, June and Clara, hovered near the doorway, their gazes switching between suspicion and something softer. Margaret spoke first. "You look like a man who's been lied to," she said. Wade let out a dry chuckle. "Wouldn't be the first time, but this one's gonna cost me everything I got." "You're not the first they fooled," she said quietly. "The bank's been selling this land for years. Every few seasons, some poor soul rides in thinking it's his new start." Wade looked around. The yard, the fences, the stable half collapsed. It wasn't much, but it had a pulse. "And you've stayed through it all?" Margaret nodded. "Our father built this place with his own hands. The papers they forged mean nothing to us. They can't sell what's already ours." June stepped forward, her voice lighter, but with an edge. "They tried to scare us off, men with badges, men with guns. We buried 2 of our horses because of them." Wade's jaw tightened. The West had a way of swallowing men whole, but this was different. This was rot dressed in law. Clara, the youngest, looked at him from the shadows of the porch. "Why are you really here, Mr. Langston? To fight them? Or to walk away like the rest?" Her tone wasn't cruel, just tired, like someone who'd stopped believing in help a long time ago. "I'm here because I was cheated," Wade said slowly. "But maybe it's time someone made them pay for all of it." Margaret studied him for a long moment. "Talk like that gets men killed out here." He met her gaze without flinching. Then I guess I'm already halfway there. Silence followed, the kind that settles like dust after a storm. From somewhere inside the house came the faint clatter of dishes. June was lighting a lamp. The warm glow spilled through the doorway, chasing the shadows off the porch. "Come in," Margaret finally said. "You'll want to hear the rest before you decide if you're staying." Wade hesitated only a second before stepping across the threshold. Inside, the house smelled of wood smoke and bread, the scent of a home, not a hiding place. On the table lay a stack of old papers, brittle and yellowed. Margaret sat and gestured toward them. "This is what they're afraid of." Wade looked down. The top sheet bore the seal of the First Western Bank of Hope County, and beneath it, signatures that didn't match. "Forgery," he muttered. Margaret nodded. "And proof. Enough to ruin them, if we can live long enough to bring it to light." Outside, thunder rolled in the distance, the kind that doesn't promise rain, only trouble. Night fell like a curtain of ink over the plains. The wind had quieted, and the house stood against the dark like a memory that refused to fade. Inside, the only light came from a single oil lamp on the table, its flame trembling with every draft. Wade sat opposite Margaret, the documents spread out between them like open wounds. He ran a hand over one of the old deeds. "These signatures. I've seen better handwriting from drunks in saloons. But if these are real enough to fool a judge." "They were," Margaret interrupted softly. "Foyers? The sheriff, the county clerk, even the marshal, all on the bank's payroll. We've sent letters, filed complaints, begged for hearings. Every time someone new shows up with another forged bill of sale." Wade leaned back, the chair creaking beneath him, and no one else stood up. June, who had been sitting by the window, spoke without turning. "A few tried. Most disappeared. The rest learned to look away." Outside, the crickets sang, and the faint glow of the moon touched the old barn in silver. Wade stared toward it, lost in thought. "You've been living under siege," he said finally. "Why not leave?" Margaret's voice carried the weight of every dry season and broken promise. "Because running would mean they win. This land holds our family's blood, sweat, and graves. If we leave, we lose more than property. We lose who we are." Wade nodded slowly, feeling something stir in his chest. He'd spent his whole life chasing pieces of land that didn't love him back. But here, among these three stubborn women, he felt the pulse of something honest, something worth fighting for. Clara came from the kitchen carrying a kettle and poured coffee into his tin cup. "You talk like a man who's fought before," she said quietly. "I have," he answered. "Lost most of those fights too." June smiled faintly. "Maybe you've just been fighting on the wrong side." For a moment, the room softened, laughter, the warmth of the lamp, the smell of coffee cutting through the tension. It felt like the calm before, something neither of them could name. Then a sound broke the peace. A distant rumble, not thunder this time, but hoofs. Slow at first, then faster. Margaret's eyes narrowed. "They don't ride this late unless it's trouble." Wade rose, hand instinctively going to the revolver on his hip. He moved to the window. Out there, beyond the fence line, the moonlight caught movement. 3, maybe 4 riders, coming from the south road. June blew out the lamp. The room sank into shadow. "They'll come to talk first," Margaret whispered. "They always do." Wade's voice was calm but low. "And if they don't, then we make them regret it." The sound of horses drew closer, hooves crunching over the dry earth. Wade could see them now, silhouettes in dust, rifles slung low, the glint of tin badges. He felt the weight of the night press down on him. The night broke slowly, bleeding light over the horizon like a wound that wouldn't heal. The prairie was still to still, even the wind seemed to be holding its breath. Wade Langston stood on the porch with his rifle slung low, eyes fixed on the southern fence line, where the riders had camped the night before. They hadn't come charging in, not yet. Instead, they waited for men, their horses restless, their badges catching the first light of dawn. Wade knew the type. Bag hounds. men who called themselves lawmen but served whoever paid their whiskey and bullets. Margaret stepped up beside him, her shawl drawn tight against the cold morning air. "They won't leave," Wade said quietly. She nodded. "They're waiting for us to break first." Behind them, the door creaked open. June and Clara stood in the frame, both dressed for work but carrying the look of people ready for war. June's rifle hung from her shoulder. Clara clutched a folded letter close to her chest. Wade turned to her. "What's that?" Clara hesitated, then handed it to him. "They left this by the fence last night." The paper was dirty, creased, the ink smeared by dew. He read aloud. "Vacate the property by sundown. The land is claimed by order of the First Western Bank. Refusal will result in lawful removal." He crumpled it in his fist. "Lawful?" he muttered. "That word's got a funny meaning out here." Margaret's voice was steady. "They think fear will do what force couldn't, but this land doesn't scare easy." Wade looked at her, the quiet strength in her eyes. The way her hands trembled only when she thought no one saw. He'd met 100 men who talked about courage, but she carried it like a burden she refused to set down. "I'll talk to them," he said finally. June shook her head sharply. "You go down there, they'll shoot you before you finish a sentence." "Maybe," Wade replied, "but maybe they need to see this place isn't as empty as they think." He saddled his horse without another word. The leather creaked, the stirrups jingled softly, sounds that felt older than the land itself. Margaret didn't try to stop him, though her eyes said everything her mouth didn't. As he rode down the hill, the morning sun caught the frost on the grass, turning it to silver fire. The 4 riders turned their heads, watching him approach. One of them, a heavy-set man with a mustache and a tin star pinned crookedly to his vest, spat into the dirt. "Morning," Wade said evenly. The man tilted his hat. "You're trespassing on bank property, mister." "Funny," Wade said, keeping his voice calm. "Bank told me I owned this place." That got a laugh from the others, cold, humorless. They told a lot of folks that. Most of them learned to move on. Maybe I ain't most folks. Wade rode back toward the farmhouse as the sun climbed higher, burning the mist off the fields. The air was dry and sharp, the kind that made a man's thoughts come clear, and none of his were good. He knew those riders weren't bluffing. They'd be back before sundown, maybe sooner, and this time with enough guns to make the law look official. Margaret was waiting by the gate when he arrived. Her hands were clasped in front of her, but there was no fear in her eyes. Only that steady calm that came from surviving too much to be shaken by threats. "Well," she asked. "They gave us until sundown," Wade said, dismounting. "After that, they come to remove you." June's voice cut in from behind him. "Lawful removal," she scoffed. "That's just fancy talk for a hanging without a rope." Wade nodded grimly. "Pretty much." He led his horse into the barn, and the sisters followed. The smell of hay and old wood filled the air, mixed with the faint scent of gun oil and dust. "We can't run," he said. "They'd hunt you down before you got past the ridge. But if we stand, we've got a chance." Margaret crossed her arms. "A chance to what?" "Die here." Wade met her eyes. "To make them think twice before they take another family's land." For a moment, the only sound was the restless stamping of the horse. Then June spoke softly, almost to herself. "Pa used to say a man's worth ain't in his land, but in what he'll do to keep it." Margaret gave her a look, half warning, half pride, and then turned back to Wade. "What do you need?" "Rifles, ammunition, and a place to make a stand." June and Clara exchanged glances, then disappeared into the back of the barn. When they returned, they carried 2 Winchester rifles, wrapped in oilcloth, and a box of bullets so old the brass had turned dull green. "These belong to our father," Clara said quietly. "He used them the last time men came to take what wasn't theirs." Wade took one rifle, checked the chamber, and nodded approvingly. "Still good steel." They spent the next hours in silence, boarding up windows, setting barricades, moving supplies inside. "Sweat," and dust mixed on their faces, but no one complained. Even Clara, usually soft-spoken, worked with fierce determination, hauling sacks of feed to fortify the walls. As the sun dipped lower, the land began to glow the color of old copper. Wade stood outside, scanning the horizon. Every sound carried: the wind through the fence, the cry of a hawk, the distant murmur of thunder that wasn't weather. Margaret joined him on the porch, her shawl-gone sleeves rolled up. "You've done this before," she said. "Too many times," Wade answered. "Never liked the ending." She looked at him for a long moment. "Whatever happens, you didn't have to stay, but you did. For that, I thank you." Wade turned his gaze toward the fading sun. "Don't thank me yet." The sun was sinking low when the riders came. At first, they were just shapes in the heat, blurs of movement and color that rose out of the shimmering horizon. But soon, the sound of hooves rolled across the plain like thunder. The air trembled. Dust swallowed the sky. Wade Langston crouched behind the fence post, rifle steady in his hands. He could see their faces now, 12 men, armed and mean, their badges glinting faintly under the red light. They rode in a loose formation, confident, loud, already sure of victory. Inside the house, the Callahan sisters waited. June was at the east window, her Winchester trained on the gate. Clara sat by the doorway, clutching the family Bible, her lips moving silently. Margaret stood in the center of the room, not hiding, not shaking, just waiting. Wade spat into the dirt. "All right, boys," he muttered. "Let's see what the law looks like when it bleeds." The riders stopped a few yards short of the gate. Their leader, the same mustached man from the morning, raised his hand. "Langston," he shouted, "we gave you your chance. Time's up." Wade's voice carried clear across the field. "And I told you this land ain't yours to take." The man smiled coldly. "You'll wish you hadn't said that." He dropped his hand. The first shot cracked. Through the still air, a single bullet, tearing into the fence beside Wade's head. Splinters exploded. The fight had begun. Wade fired back, hitting one of the riders square in the shoulder. The man tumbled off his horse, screaming. Inside, June squeezed the trigger. Another gunman fell, rolling in the dust. The riders scattered, taking cover behind their horses and wagons. Gunfire echoed across the plain, each shot shaking the wooden house. Windows shattered. Dust poured through the cracks. Clara cried out as a bullet tore through the doorframe, missing her by inches. Margaret dragged her back, keeping low. "Stay down," she ordered. "And pray fast if you're gonna pray at all." Wade reloaded quickly, his fingers slick with sweat and dirt. The smell of gunpowder filled the air, hot, metallic, final. He could see the fear now in some of their faces, the doubt creeping in. These weren't soldiers. They were hired hands, and they hadn't expected resistance. From inside the barn came a sudden shout. Two of the riders had broken off and were circling around. June saw them first, their flanking left. She yelled. Wade ran for the corner of the house, firing twice as he moved. One rider went down. The other pressed forward, spurring his horse hard. Wade waited, one breath, two, and when the man cleared the fence, he fired again. The horse reared and fell, the rider thrown hard into the dust. Night came quietly, as if afraid to disturb the dead. The wind had died down, leaving the plain in an easy stillness. Smoke drifted lazily from the barn roof, where one of the riders' lanterns had fallen during the fight. The smell of burnt hay mixed with gunpowder and sweat, the scent of a battle half won. Wade sat on the porch steps, his rifle across his knees. The glow from the oil lamp inside spilled faintly through the broken window. His hands were shaking now, the adrenaline fading, leaving behind the heavy weight of exhaustion. Margaret came out carrying a basin of water and a torn sheet. "You're bleeding," she said, setting it down beside him. Wade glanced at his arm. A deep graze along the forearm, nothing fatal, but ugly. Ink the first time. She started cleaning the wound, her hands steady. "Doesn't make it hurt less." Inside, June and Clara whispered as they moved about, tending to what was left of the house. The windows were boarded again, the furniture pushed against the walls. Every creak of the floorboards made Clara flinch. "They'll come back," June said quietly. "They will," Wade answered without looking up. "And not just them. The bank will send more, men who don't miss when they shoot." Margaret wrung the cloth, red water dripping into the basin. "So, we wait for them to kill us?" Wade shook his head. "No, we make them chase ghosts instead." He reached into his saddlebag and pulled out a crumpled envelope, old, stained, sealed with wax that had half melted. He handed it to Margaret. "Found this in town," he said. "Old land records. Names scratched out, dates changed, same handwriting on every page. The banker's clerk. He's been selling the same land over and over for years." Margaret opened the envelope, scanning the faded ink. "So, that's their game." "Yeah," Wade said. "And we can prove it, if we get to the marshal before they get to us." June stepped closer, eyes narrowing. "That means leaving the farm." "It does," Wade said. "At least one of us. Someone's gotta carry these papers to the county seat. Once the marshal sees them, he'll have no choice but to shut that bank down." Silence settled between them. Outside, a coyote howled long, mournful, echoing across the dark prairie. Margaret finally spoke. "You'd never make it alone. They'll have scouts watching the road." "I'm not asking you to risk it," Wade said. "You don't have to ask," she replied firmly. "This land's been ours for 20 years. I won't see it stolen by ink and fear." June nodded. "Then we ride at dawn." Wade looked at her, her jaw set, her hands steady, and for the first time, he saw in her the same fire he'd once known in soldiers. That stubborn refusal to be beaten, no matter the odds. He smiled faintly. "You ever ride with a wanted man before?" June smirked. "Not yet, but I reckon there's a first time for everything." The morning broke cold and silent over the Callahan farm. The smoke from last night's gunfight still drifted above the barn like a ghost. Refusing to leave, Wade stood by the fence, tightening his saddle straps, watching the horizon bleed with the first hint of dawn. June stepped out of the house, her shawl drawn tight. The look in her eyes said everything: exhaustion, loss, and something like resolve. "We can't stay," she said. Wade nodded. "They'll come again. And next time, they won't bother knocking." Margaret handed him a bundle wrapped in cloth. Inside were the papers they had found, deeds, letters, and the forged signatures that proved the bank's crimes. "These are what they killed for," she said quietly. "Make sure someone finally listens." Clara hovered near the porch, eyes red from crying. "You'll bring them back." Wade managed a faint smile. "If the law still means anything west of the river, we will." He mounted his horse, helping June up beside him. The wind had that sharp, metallic bite that comes before a long ride. Behind them, the Callahan house stood battered but unbroken, sunlight glinting off shattered windows like old glass eyes watching them leave. They rode east, across the open prairie. The land stretched forever, a quilt of dust, sage, and silence. The only sound was the creak of saddle leather and the steady rhythm of hooves. After hours of riding, June finally spoke. "Do you think this judge will even listen?" "He's the last honest one left," Wade said. "Judge Alden, Red Bluff. He's fought the bank before." June's gaze drifted toward the horizon. "Then we'd better reach him before the bank does." By noon they crossed the dry riverbed where the old telegraph line hung crooked in the wind. Buzzards wheeled overhead. The land felt emptier than ever, no sign of life, just the vast loneliness of the frontier. Wade dismounted to check the horse's hooves. "We'll rest here a bit," he said, "then ride till dark." June knelt by the waterless creek, brushing sand from her palms. "I grew up thinking the law was supposed to protect people like us." Wade chuckled, low and bitter. "Out here, the law's whoever's got ink and a badge, and both can be bought cheap." For a moment, silence hung between them. Then, far off, a dust trail rose on the horizon. Wade squinted, his hand instinctively falling to the grip of his revolver. "Riders," he muttered. "2, maybe 3." June's heartbeat quickened. They found us. Could be scouts. Could be worse. He mounted fast. Either way, we ride. They galloped hard, wind whipping at their faces. The sound of pursuit echoed faintly, hooves striking stone. The cry of men somewhere behind. Wade didn't look back. He just pushed the horse harder. By late afternoon, Wade and June rode into Dry Creek with the chill of the canyon still in their bones. The town sat quiet along one dusty street, a saloon, a mercantile, the sheriff's office with a faded star in the window. They tied the horses, dust settling like a film on everything. Inside the sheriff's office, Marshal Donovan glanced up as they entered. He was older than the badge suggested, eyes that had seen to many bargains and burned to many consciences. Wade dropped the saddlebag on the desk and pushed the papers forward. Deeds, forged seals, the bank clerk's hand repeated across page after page. Donovan turned each sheet slowly, thumb tracing ink like he could read truth by touch. "Where'd you get these?" he asked. "From what's left of the town the bank ruined," Wade said. "From the Callahan's farm. From people they sold out." The marshal's jaw tightened. For a second, Wade thought the man would stand with them. Then the front door opened and two dust-coated riders stepped inside, spurs singing. Wade recognized them, men from the Reach. Donovan didn't rise. He met Wade's eyes and the light went out of his face. "We'll take care of it proper," he said in a voice that didn't reach his hand. June moved, instincts sharp. She reached for the saddlebag, but one of the riders leveled his rifle. "Marshal," he said, voice oily, "don't make trouble." The marshal's hand slid under the desk, not to his own gun but to pass a nod. He'd chosen the bank a long time ago. The room contracted into a single terrible truth. Wade didn't wait. Metal sang as he drew. June dove for the back door with the saddlebag. A single shot cracked. Glass exploded. Chairs toppled. The marshal's hat flew off as a bullet zipped close to his ear. Chaos spilled into the street. Wade fired from behind the desk, then bolted after June as she burst through the alley. They swung into their saddles. Horses reared and then surged forward. Behind them, shots rose and the sound of hooves grew frantic. Wade glanced back once, Marshal Donovan standing in the doorway. Shoulders hunched, the riders flanking him. No help came from the town. The saloon doors banged shut. Faces teared out, then vanished. "Red Bluff," Wade shouted, urging his mount. "Judge Alden, he still answers to all." June urged her horse faster. Bullets sketched the air around them. They rode past the last building as the sun sank, painting the town in blood orange light. Dry Creek shrank behind them, a place that chose profit over justice. Ahead, the prairie opened. Behind, the riders gathered and gave chase. The papers were safe for the moment, clutched in June's lap. The judge's name was their only hope. They rode into the dying light, dust trailing like a promise of storms to come. By the time Wade and June reached Red Bluff, their horses were near collapse. Dust clung to their clothes, and the wind had turned sharp, carrying the scent of rain and iron. The town sat nestled between two ridges, its wooden buildings bathed in the pale morning sun. Unlike Dry Creek, this place looked alive. Wagons moving, men shouting, the clang of a blacksmith hammer echoing through the streets. Wade dismounted outside the courthouse. It stood higher than any other building, white paint peeling, the flag above it limp in the still air. "That's where truth either lives or dies," he said quietly. June glanced up at the structure. "You really think one man can clean up all this?" Wade gave a half smile. "One man with a pen can do more than a dozen with guns, if he's honest." Inside, the courthouse smelled of old wood and dust. Behind a desk sat Judge Alden, an older man with silver hair and eyes that had seen too many broken promises. When he looked up, recognition flickered. "Langston, I thought you'd hung up your guns years ago." "Almost did," Wade said. He dropped the saddlebag onto the desk. "Till I found something worth drawing for." The judge untied the flap and began pulling out papers, forged deeds, false contracts, letters sealed with the bank's mark. As he read, the lines around his eyes deepened. "These are serious claims," he said. "If they're true, it means the bank's been stealing land for over a decade." "They're true," Wade answered. "I bled for every page in that bag." Alden studied him a long moment. "And the Callahan sisters?" "Still fighting," Wade said. "They held their land when everyone else gave up." The judge nodded slowly. "Good people. I remember their father. The man once saved my life near the border. Maybe it's time I repaid that debt." He stood, crossing to the window. "I'll issue a summons for the bank's board by sundown. But you should know, they've got friends everywhere. The kind that wear badges and write laws." June stepped forward. "We're not asking for mercy, Judge, just the truth." Alden smiled faintly. "Then you came to the right place." For a moment, hope filled the room, rare and fragile, like sunlight through storm clouds. But then, from outside, came the unmistakable sound of hoofs, too many too fast. Wade turned sharply. "They found us." The judge's expression hardened. "How many?" Wade moved to the door, peering through the crack. "Half a dozen riders, maybe more. Bank men. They ain't here to talk." June reached for her revolver, checking the cylinder with steady hands. "Guess justice'll have to wait its turn." The judge blew out the lamp and moved toward the cabinet. "If they want trouble, let's oblige it. There's a shotgun in here older than most lies in this town." The sound of boots hit the porch. Someone shouted, "Langston, hand over the papers and we'll let you live." The courthouse shook with every bullet. Splinters flew, glass shattered, and the smell of gunpowder thickened the air. Wade reloaded fast, his hands steady despite the chaos. June fired through the side window, dropping a rider from his saddle. The judge crouched behind his desk, loading both barrels of the shotgun. "You sure know how to pick your fights, Langston." Wade smirked grimly. "Ain't much choice when the fight picks you." Outside, the riders regrouped, firing wild. One tossed a burning torch toward the front steps. Flames crawled across the porch. The judge cursed. "They'll smoke us out." Wade kicked the door open, storming through the smoke. His revolver barked twice. Two men fell before they could reload. June followed, eyes fierce, firing from the shadows. When the gunfire faded, only silence remained and the smell of blood and ash. Wade wiped his brow. "That all of them?" The judge stepped into the doorway, eyes scanning the street. "No," he said. "One ran." Wade's jaw tightened. "He'll bring more. Then we make it count before he does." The judge returned inside, grabbed the papers, and began signing an order. "I'm filing charges against every man tied to that bank. The whole county will know by nightfall." June watched him. "And if they come for you next?" Alden smiled sadly. "Let him. I'd rather die honest than live comfortable." By late afternoon, the courthouse filled with townsfolk. The judge read the charges aloud, voice clear and steady. Every false deed, every stolen acre, all laid bare. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, anger turning to outrage. Wade stood near the door, hand resting on his revolver, watching the faces change, disbelief, fury, shame. Truth was heavier than bullets, and it had just landed. When the verdict came, it was swift. The bank's charter revoked, its leaders arrested, and the stolen lands, including the Callahan farm, restored. The people cheered, but Wade only stared at the floor. Afterward, as dusk settled over Red Bluff, Wade stepped outside. The judge joined him on the steps. "You've done something rare, Langston. You gave this town its spine back." Wade shook his head. "Just gave it a reason to use it." June approached, saddlebag slime over her shoulder. "The horses are ready," she said softly. Alden extended his hand. "Ride safe, both of you. The law needs folks who remember what it's for." Wade clasped his hand firmly. "Then keep reminding them." They mounted their horses as the last light of day faded. The town buzzed behind them, hope reborn, justice reclaimed. At the edge of town, June glanced at him. "What now?" Wade adjusted his hat, eyes on the horizon glowing gold. "There's always another fight we can But for once, we ain't running from it. They rode off into the dying sun, to silhouettes against the endless plains. Behind them, Red Bluff stood tall, proof that even in the wildest land, truth could still take root.